Hey, good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your hurricane outlook and discussion. It is now Sunday, the 30th day of August, 2020. I am in Gulfport, Mississippi. It has this is where I started with this whole saga, with Marco that pretty much never came to be in terms of major impacts, and now ending with Laura. Turn that off for a sec. Back in Gulfport, and I'll be heading home over the next couple of days, taking my time to get there. All is well, everybody's safe. I'll talk about the equipment at the end of this, but it's time to focus on the tropics and what is happening. Things are getting busy once again, so let's jump right into it. It's good to be back doing these updates. I took yesterday off. We had a lot of traveling to do. I say I took it off. We were looking for equipment, and we were down in the blast zone, as I call it. But I did not do an update yesterday, so here we are now. And boy, things are busy once again. We have 2 orange X's and 1 yellow X. What do all of these mean? These are our areas of interest. That's the 2-day outlook. This is the 5-day graphic. And this one has a high chance of development. We'll look at this closer in a moment. This just got bumped up to 60% as the organization of the system, which is now officially 99L. It's getting better organized. I'll show you that. We have this other little system that seems to be waning away, and then a fourth piece of energy coming off Africa that we have to watch. And this is all part of the pattern. None of this is a surprise. None of it should be overly concerning. And at least we have the ability to see what's happening out into the future, right? So let's take a look at the broad picture, the satellite imagery here. We do have this leftover trough energy that I forgot to put my little drawing tool. It's tiny, you can barely see it there. We have this little trough energy that came off the eastern United States with the leftovers of a tropical wave that's gotten entrained in here, and now it's off the coast of Florida or close by. And this is probably going to develop into a named storm. The models are all over it, and the energy is like right in here. I'll show you in a second on the vorticity signature. But this is going to head out into the Atlantic and not be a problem for anybody. But it's going to be another named storm. And so with that'll take care of the end storm, more than likely, and that will be Nana. This down here, and I know, right? What a name. We all love our Nana, but I never thought we'd see one of our tropical systems named Nana. Nevertheless, this is another system. This is 99L. And a lot of new people watching my YouTube channel now. Welcome aboard. If you don't know what a 99L even is, if you hear that term, people say invest 99 or 99L or whatever. It's just a numbering system or a classification system that we in the weather world use. The Hurricane Center is the ones that designates these. And different agencies around the world actually need to figure out exactly who's responsible, if it's a satellite unit of a particular agency. Anyway, the meteorological community gives these a number, 90 through 99, and then they start over again when you have a disturbance. So maybe this disturbance, as a hypothetical, would be 90L. Let's just pretend here. It's not, but this would be 90 because this is 99L right here. And so you go back to 90 when you use up the numbers, 90 through 99. And maybe this one coming off, that would be 91L. You understand how that works? The L is for Atlantic, and so technically it's AL99, and it's an area of investigation, so we just shorten it to invest 99L. That's what that means, in case you didn't know. And you can assign satellite resources to them, run computer models. It's just a way to keep up with stuff better than, you know, this blob of clouds, that blob of clouds, that blob of clouds, and that blob of clouds. I think you got the point. So let's take a look underneath these clouds and try to pick out the vorticity. Where is that energy trying to bundle together? Off the Florida coast here, just east of Daytona and vicinity, this little piece is trying to get together, and it's going to get involved with this frontal boundary. But once the frontal boundary separates, I think this will coalesce, come together, and move off in that general same path there and become a named storm. I really do. The energy's there, the water's warm, it's that time of year, the pattern supports it, the models are generally all over it, high probability this is going to become Nana. Once it develops and moves out this way, it might send some swells back towards the east coast, so be mindful of that. I'll address that in tomorrow's update. Swells and high waves are fun for surfers, absolutely, but they can be dangerous for swimmers, and we want to keep you safe. Down in the Caribbean, here's 99L, and this energy is definitely trying to bundle together, but this out here in the main development region, not really doing much. You know, maybe a couple of pockets there where things are trying to come together, but this is linear. It's spread out over a large area. Nothing is focusing. So speaking of focusing, we will just focus on this and this area right here. All right? And we'll see what happens as they go forward, okay? So I was just thinking ahead. That's why I lost my train of thought. I need to check something, actually. I think there is only one invest, current active storms. Yeah, 99L right here. And we're going to look at that closer in just a moment. Sorry I derailed my train of thought because I was thinking that perhaps the one off the Carolinas here was 99L, but anyway, my brain's just trying to wake up again. No big deal. All right, so a close-up of 99L down here in the Caribbean, and you can see as I speed it up, there's definitely some organization with it. It's trying to get its act together. You can see right in here just a little bit of broad turning. The outflow is pretty well established. Moisture in here is good. The water temperatures are good. It's later in the season as well. And so this gauntlet in here that we normally see as being unfavorable at this time of year becomes more favorable because the trades are slowing down, the dynamics are changing. There's a lot of reasons behind why the Eastern Caribbean or Caribbean, I've said it both ways, can become more favorable as the season progresses. And a little bit of lightning here in and around Guadeloupe and the east side of this tropical disturbance, 99L. And this is forecast to move off into the Western Caribbean and perhaps try to develop. So let's look at that real quick. This is the neat little site here, Tropical Cyclone Guidance Project. And we can look at the early track guidance. Not much, because this just got initialized. So there's only a limited amount of models dedicated to it. This little legend over here, our table, this will populate more and more. So when we take a look at this tomorrow, we'll have the H-WRF, the H-MON, some of the global models will be in there, the ensemble means, and the consensus models. So this is a very early look at track. This is a look at intensity and the ship's guidance. Very aggressive, most of the modeling is, and then they kind of drop off. This is more likely because of land interaction. So we're going to want to watch this. This is early, but the general slope here is, steep. The angle, it's pretty steep. So we got to watch this closely as it traverses the Caribbean, maybe making its way over towards Central America in this case, but we don't know for sure. The patterns can change, so we got to watch 99L closely for potential impacts down the road. All right, so off the Florida coast, it doesn't look like much, but this little piece of energy coming across right in here is trying to gather itself, and like I said, I think it eventually will become a named storm out over the Atlantic, moving away from the United States, so that's good news. If we speed it up, you can really see that rotation, generally broad turning, but once it gets over that warm water and the dynamics around it change, I think it has a shot at developing. And again, it should move generally in this direction and not be of consequence except for the swells that it'll generate as it moves by, and it'll send those back towards the beach. And I know my kids are like that. The ocean temperatures are plenty warm, and we're still enjoying that down at the ocean front from time to time, even though that school is back in, sort of. And you know what I mean by that. Crazy times. Speaking of crazy times, this right here is a great guide tool, the Madden Julian Oscillation. It is not the end-all definitive, this controls everything, but it's helpful in understanding the overall background state and what we call the intra-seasonal state. And right now, it's generally favorable. This is the ECMWF. Look at what we call the phase diagram of the Madden Julian Oscillation. And that's just a period of time where generally the winds are favorable in the upper levels of the atmosphere. The moisture content's pretty good. It doesn't mean that it's perfect, but this is an enhancing phase that we are in. The MJO either enhances or suppresses activity. And I say that, think about the suppressing part. Notice here in the Western Pacific, the MJO is not there. It's right here. Madden Julian oscillation activity, as it were, is favoring phase 2, which is the Indian Ocean towards the Atlantic. But right now, if you follow James Reynolds on Twitter, typhoon hunter over there, volcanologist, all-around great guy. I don't know if he's technically a volcanologist, but he certainly films them and has an appreciation for them. And if you're not following James Reynolds, you should. In fact, I'll pull him up in a minute. Anyway, there's going to be a typhoon. I think it's Bavi, and that's in the Westpac. It's going to affect some of the islands of Japan, the southern islands. Japan is a series of islands. And my point is, the MJO not being in the Westpac, yet we're going to get a typhoon. And again, I think its name is Bavi, if I'm not mistaken. But this favors the Atlantic. So the pattern is favorable now. And, very importantly, look at some of these ensemble members in here. It stays favorable according to some of these little spaghetti plots, if you will, these little noodles. Come right back around towards phases 8 and 1 again. And I think that's what we're going to see, this overall envelope. That's the gray area, kind of outlining the general guidance, is going to turn back around very quickly into phases 8, 1, and 2 through September and then into October. We're seeing that indicated as well from people like Ben Knoll and Eric Webb and several others that keep track of this. Dr. Michael Ventris with the Weather Company or IBM or whatever it is. I can't keep track of all these, but you get the idea. People are on it, right? So we get this foresight of what may be coming down the road, a very favorable pattern that can change quickly. And that goes to this real quick, the water temperature profile, the anomalies, pretty much in La Nina now. Not officially, but we've pretty much locked it in. Also, cold water relative to average right off the Central American coast and Mexico, and the Atlantic Basin and the Caribbean and the Gulf, very much above the long-term average. You know, relatively speaking, 1 or 2 degrees Celsius doesn't sound like much to you, but in terms of energy, it's a tremendous anomaly. The amount of additional energy out in the Atlantic Basin, and it's only August 29th. And I've said this earlier in the season, I don't say these things to rile you up and to create hype and panic. It is very, very important to understand the science and the meteorology and the oceanography and all these things that come together that give us, gift wrapping. We saw this coming months ago. Sometimes it's this easy that we knew this was going to be a slam dunk, as close to knowing as you can. It's all about probabilities at the end of the day, but instinct. Myself doing this more than 2 decades, Eric Webb, I talk about him a lot, Jack Sillen, Ben Knoll, and others. We can see these patterns, and Dr. Klotzbach at Colorado State University, Phil Klotzbach, he sees these patterns, and we get to figure it all out, like trying to solve a crime before it happens, a lot like that movie Minority Report. Remember that movie with Tom Cruise, where you can see the crime before it happens, you can see the weather before it happens. The pattern is there for something to occur. And this is a very big pattern, a very obvious pattern, and we cannot ignore it. So please do not misunderstand what I'm showing you and the emphasis I'm placing on it for hype or scare tactics. Look at it in the positive, that it is luck favors the prepared. And this signal of very warm water relative to average, and even in the Gulf, those little blues right there, I thought it would be a lot more than that, what the Marco and Laura combination did. The anomalies are just negligible, and the actual water temperatures are still 28, 29 Celsius, plenty warm, and this is going to fill back in. It only takes a couple of weeks, so we got to stay on top of our game here. With everything else going on in the United States and globally, we got to stay on top of this and don't let the weather sneak up on us. All right, so real quick, and I am going to remember to pull up James Reynolds because I want to show you his Twitter, because he is going to be going out and capturing that typhoon, documenting it, and we'll show you that in just a moment. Big kind of hoopla over the loss, if you will, of our camera boxes down in Cameron Parish. Holly Beach, we had one of those boxes and then a smaller box that had a GoPro in it. The main thing I want you to understand here, I'm not interested in the video nearly as much as I'm interested in the pressure sensors. We know that it was dark when Laura made landfall, so even if our GoPro at Holly Beach ran the entire time, it got knocked off the pole snapped, we know all that. Who cares? It was dark. We're not going to be able to see anything. It'd be interesting to capture it and see what we got, but I want those pressure sensors. It's these little small Kestrel pressure sensors, because we might have captured something historic for the meteorological record going forward. And it has no monetary value to me at all. I'm not selling that data. And, that is the truth. I give that data away. I sell that data to no one. We provide it through crowdfunding, but that's from people voluntarily supporting the project. I don't turn around and sell the data. So there is no monetary gain for me to get that data. There is significant scientific gain. And what happened is the wind brought these poles down. Many, many poles are down in Mexico Beach. There were from Michael in Holly Beach. Mexico Beach, Holly Beach. You can see where I can mix that up. They both have the name beach in them. So the wind brought the poles down. Those really awesome ratchet straps, the cameras popped out from underneath, and they are chained on from these nice thick chains, and all the debris got washed away. Yes, they do have sensors inside of them. These little Kestrel things, I have an app, and the app is from Kestrel. It looks like that, if you can see it, maybe. Right there, it looks like that little bird. It says Kestrel, Kestrel. Here's what I want you to do. Get the app, if you live in the area, and when you install it, it will say scanning for available devices, right? It's looking for, via Bluetooth, that instrument, that little Kestrel instrument. And it'll hear it, if you will, sense it. We noticed from our other instruments we had out there, I was picking them up 100, 150 feet away from my vehicle where all the instruments were. So if you're down there and you know people that are going down there, one way we might be able to find these boxes, and it's a needle in a haystack, but we crowdsource the solution. Get the Kestrel app. Again, it's just Kestrel. It looks like a little bird. You download it on your smartphone, and you make sure Bluetooth is enabled. And if you're in the area, in Holly Beach especially, or Cameron, that's the other one, turn that on, open the app, and if you pick up a signal, it'll say either Cameron or Holly Beach. That's the identifier. It'll phone home, if you will. And this thing will run for a few more days, and then the battery will run out. It's a long shot, but you never know. We are working on solutions for this in the future, so don't worry about that. I'm going to talk to my crowdfunding people about that tomorrow. I'm going to have kind of a one-on-one with them via video. I'm going to produce a video kind of outlining some ideas, collecting everybody's ideas that they have already contributed. But it's, it goes with the territory. Sometimes nature is going to win. And so my job is to figure out what we call that next play and move forward, right? And how can we do things better? It's disappointing, but here's the other thing, and I'm very positive. I try to stay positive until you can't. You need to understand that this is only day 3 after Laura. There's still standing water down there. Brent went back to Cameron and looked for the box that's in Cameron, and there's just water everywhere. And so as that water drains away, maybe somebody will see it. That's what it looks like, okay? And I'll add this. If you find one of them, don't open it. Please do not open it. If they are returned to me unopened, I will give the person $500 cash. And I'm dead serious about that. So there is an incentive now that if you come across one of these, we want the data so bad, it's important to the Weather Service, it's important to the National Hurricane Center, and I think it's important to the people of Louisiana to know how strong was Laura. And we had a pressure sensor in Cameron where the almost absolute center, it was almost in the absolute center and that is extremely important right at ground zero of the eye. Not the peak surge, that's a whole other thing. But the eye, the center of it went just about right over Cameron, and we would have that ground data literally at sea level because the box fell into the water, and it would have kept recording the sensor. You understand that? So $500, and there's 3 boxes that we're looking for, 2 of them in Holly Beach, 1 of them in Cameron. If you come across it, it's extremely important that you do not open it. We want to be able to see when we open it how everything is. So do not open it. And if it's returned unopened, then all the equipment should still be in there and give you $500. And people down there could use the money, I'm sure. And it's worth it for science. All right? All right, so there's that. I want to show you James Reynolds real quick here on the Twitter. James Reynolds, where are you? There he is. Earth Uncut TV is his handle. Follow this guy, British guy, droning volcanoes, chasing storms, and flogging video. I like that. He's going to be down there in the Japanese archipelago, fancy word for islands, with that typhoon. I think it's Bavi. All right, so give James a follow if you don't mind. If you would be so kind, sirs and madams. So a lot to keep up with. I'm going to shut up and post this video. Huge thanks to all of our supporters. The crowdfunding behind it is making things possible that I could only dream of. And it's just a big round of applause to you guys. You had my back. You were behind me all the way, and I very much appreciate that. We got a lot to talk about in the week ahead, so I'll spread it out instead of doing it all today. All right? Thanks for tuning in as always. I am Mark Sudduth in Gulfport, Mississippi. I'll be home within the next 2 days. Woohoo! You guys have a great rest of your Sunday. I'll talk to you some more tomorrow.